everything God is doing in your life and what He's doing with you. Sing with us. Here we go.
The miracle that I just can't get over. My name This is how I fight my battle. And this is how I fight my battles. Yes, it is. And this is how I fight my battle. Come on, you know what you sing. And this is how I fight my battles. 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 This is how. Come on, this is how. And this is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Yes, I am. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battle. This is how I fight my battle. This is how I fight my battle. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. My battle. This is how I fight my battle. This is how I fight my battle. One more time. This is how I fight my battle. Come on, lift up a shout of praise tonight. Amen, amen. You guys can be seated.
What is up, Velocity? Man, I've missed you guys. Welcome online, welcome in the house. For those who are newer who don't know, my name is Bradley Hamilton. I'm the student pastor here, and it's been a little while since I've gotten to hang out with you guys or I've seen you online because we had a pretty long break over Christmas. Everyone have a good Christmas and New Year's. I haven't even seen you since then. And then we were back for a few weeks, and the team did amazing. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here, but it was for good things because we were having our first baby boy. And if you follow us a little bit on social media, we ended up having a little bit of a crazy delivery journey, and I'm actually going to share a lot of that next week because I think I'm going to talk on something that I learned and going through some of these kind of scary times leading up to the birth of our son. And so just something that honestly I've just been wrestling with God and kind of something he showed me. And so I want to talk about that next week, and I'll dive into more details. But the good news is we are happy and healthy. Mama Jamie is doing great. Baby Brecken is doing great. And I don't know if we have a picture of, they might have already showed it, but we have a little picture of our family right now. This is pretty normal in our household at the moment, because the baby sleeps a lot, just not at night, only during the day. And so sleeping a lot during the day, and then we take naps together. And our dog is so funny. Our dog thinks that this is his baby. And so he is so protective of Brecken. He is all about him. In fact, he's kind of protective against us to Brecken. Like, we're changing Brecken's diaper, and the dog will come up between us and like growl. Like, you're hurting him, don't mess with him. If the baby's crying, he's like upset. He thinks this is his child. And so it is just hilarious. We didn't know how he would be because he's only a year old, but he has done great. And so all that to say, we are doing awesome. We are healthy. And I can't wait next week to tell you a little bit more just about kind of what we walk through. But we're doing awesome. All that to say, too, I'm not sleeping a lot right now at nighttime. And so I'm a little delirious. On the way here, I was like, should I be driving? I'm not sure. And so just know there's no telling what's about to come out of my mouth. But hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully it makes sense because I'm excited to hang out because I have missed you guys so much. Cool. Y'all ready for tonight? Awesome. All right, so we've been in this series talking about the pursuit of. And I've loved this series, and haven't Colton and Justin done an amazing job the last 2 weeks? I wasn't physically here, but I was watching online. I was watching at the hospital, the first one, and we were watching at home, the second one. And I'm just blown away by the team that you guys have here. I know you know this, and I don't need to tell you this, but sometimes you're going to step back and just watch and see everything that this team does. I was blown away. You have an incredible worship team. You have incredible small group leaders. You have an incredible production team. And it's just really cool to be a part of all that God is doing here at Velocity. And I know so many of you have that story, too, of how you have been impacted. And as we kind of come to the end of this series, this pursuit of, we're talking about things that we pursue in life. And I don't know if you've ever gotten to this place. This was me in high school. I had this kind of revelation moment where I realized that I had been pursuing a lot of things that left me empty. I'd been pursuing things that I thought I wanted, I thought would make me happy once I got them. But once I finally did, I was more empty than before. And it's funny that these things that they seem to promise to give us things, and we kind of end up in two different directions. We can end up following after things that help us thrive and grow and be right where God wants us, or we can just be a little bit off and pursue things that leave us more devastated than before. And what I found was I got to a place and didn't realize how I got there. I got to a place and realized I'm not happy. My relationships are falling apart. I'm not who I want to be. I look at myself in the mirror and I don't like the kind of person that I am. And I started to deal with depression and kind of an identity crisis, all because I had taken little steps over time that led me somewhere I didn't want to be. It wasn't one big decision. It wasn't like one day I woke up and said, hey, I want to be like this and be here in my life. It was little steps over time because I was pursuing the wrong things. And so what I think is super important, especially as a new year kind of starts out, is to sit back and look at what we're pursuing in life and really just analyze it. Look and go, hey, am I kind of chasing after the right things? Because I don't want you to get to a place that you never wanted to be. I don't want you to get to a place and go, no one told me that I would be here. No one warned me. I took steps that I didn't realize would take me here. And now I'm at this place. I don't want to be here. And I wish there was a place and I wish there was a voice who had said, pursue the right things because you don't want to be in this spot. And because that's my prayer for you, I want to build this place to be that. I want to be the voice to be that. I want your leaders to be that voice to say, hey, check what you're pursuing. Make sure you're chasing the right things because we don't want you to end up in the same place of so many of us were. Or we realize, I don't know how I got here, but this isn't where I want to be. My hope for you is that you would get to the end of this year and say, this year I'm exactly where I want to be. I've pursued the right things. God has done incredible things in my life, and I'm so thankful for Velocity helping me get there. And so I want you to know, wherever you're at, whatever you believe, whatever kind of skill set you have, whatever hobby you're involved in, whatever school you go to, whatever age you are, no matter what, if you are in this room, I want you to know this is a safe place for you. As you're on this journey to figure out, what am I pursuing? This is a safe place to be honest about it. This is a safe place to ask tough questions. And as you're going to see, I have some very tough questions to talk through. And I'm not doing this because I want you to kind of to say ouch and to feel kind of like you're wrestling with things. That's not necessarily my goal, but I do want you to honestly look at your heart. Because I wish I had asked myself some of these questions earlier on than I did. And I might have avoided some of the regret that I dealt with. And so here's what I want to talk about. As we talk about what we're pursuing, I want to ask, what about the people that we're pursuing? What about the friendships in our life? What about the dating relationships in our life? How do we pursue other people and why? And here's the tough statement. I'm just going to kick it off with a really tough one. Here we go. This is true. Ready? We often want something from others and not for them. At first you're going, no, Bradley, that's not the case. Like, that's not who I am. But let's be honest. No one knows what's going on in your heart. No one knows what you're thinking right now. No one knows the person you're thinking of. But let's just be totally honest. Have you ever found yourself in a friendship, a relationship of some kind because you wanted something from that person and not for them? I think if we were to be honest, we've all done this in some way at some point. Have you ever hung out with someone because you just didn't want to be alone with your thoughts? Have you ever buddied up to a friend and made someone a friend of yours because you actually wanted their status or their popularity? Have you ever dated someone because there was something you wanted from them? Mentally, emotionally, physically? I think if we were to be honest, there are too many situations that we actually have stepped into pursuing someone not for what we can give them, but for what they can give us. And here's the tough thing about this. If we continue to do this, here's the truth. Here's what will happen. If all of your relationships are about you, they will fail to be true relationships. It's just how it is. If all of your relationships are solely, completely about you and not about the other person as well, your relationships will fail to be relationships. And I know I'm using this word relationships, and I don't just mean romantic ones. I mean friendships, I mean siblings, I mean your parents. Any relationship that you have, if it is always centered completely around you and what you can get from the relationship, you will get to the end of the line and realize this was not a relationship at all. See, here's what happens, and I didn't think about this because I have a handheld mic, so this is going to be a little bit tough, but I just want to illustrate this. You probably won't be able to see this super well, but this first cup says you, okay? And we're going to make this second one them. My handwriting is even worse with a mic in my hand. Okay. This one's them, and this them is whoever you want it to be. This them is a relationship that you've stepped into that you're dating. This is a friendship. This is, honestly, siblings, parents. This is anyone. So you can kind of think through who you want this to be. But here's what begins to happen in a relationship if we make it all about ourselves. Those look pretty even to you guys? Close. My perfectionism is really kicking in right here. So here's what begins to happen. If we continue to take from a relationship, we'll continue, you can just hold on to that. We'll continue to take, and we'll continue to take, and we'll continue to have what we have out of the relationship, and we have their status, and we fill ourselves up emotionally, and we fill ourselves up physically, and we just continue to take from someone else. And then we get to a point to where this is what our relationship looks like. And it's so simple to see in front of us. I wish I had like kind of a bigger, more amazing way to illustrate it. But honestly, let's step back and be real. Too many of our relationships look like this. We have taken and we have taken and we have taken from others what will fill us up, but we haven't taken the time to think, what if I pursued relationships because of what I could give them? And so I don't know, I just maybe before we continue for the rest of our talk, I want you to think about who is this them in your life that you've done this with? Who is this friend that they make you feel better and they come to your rescue and they listen to you, but you haven't listened to them? And you haven't taken the time to ask them about how their life is going? And you haven't been there when they needed it? What is this dating relationship that you've gotten a lot out of, but if you were to be honest, you've taken a lot. And you've hurt. And you've left them in a space of emptiness. What I want us to do is really sit back and think about what would it look like for our relationships to be shifted a little bit. For us to take the time to think about this being our goal in our relationships. Here's the goal. And this is big. It seems simple, but this is big. And I believe that this will change all of your relationships. Just this one thing. If you get nothing else that we talk about, I know you come every week. I give you a point every week. I give you a verse every week. If you want, disregard everything we've talked about. If you will hang on to this alone will change your relationships for the rest of your life. Here it is. Our job, Christ follower especially, listen, our job is to point people to Jesus, not ourselves. Our job is to point people to Jesus and not ourselves. Now, this is for Christians in the room. If you claim to follow after Jesus because of what he has done for you, that he died on your behalf, that he gave you unconditional grace and love, you've accepted that and you want to pursue after him, then your role now is to point others to Jesus. Now, if you're in the room and you're not a Christ follower, you're checking out Jesus, you're watching online, and you're not sure kind of where you stand, you get a free pass on this because you don't have to do this. This is for those that would claim to follow after Jesus. Your role now in relationships is not just to take, it is to point others toward Jesus and not to yourself. But what I do want to say to those who aren't Christ followers listening or in the room is that I know a lot of you have been hurt by Christians who have claimed to follow after Jesus, who have claimed to accept that love, and yet they have taken from you, and they haven't pointed you to Jesus, and they didn't show you grace, and they didn't show you love, and they didn't show you acceptance. And so I just want to say I am sorry about that, because we mess up and we're people too, but that is not the goal of a Christ follower. And so if that has happened to you, I want you to know that that is not the heart of Jesus. That what Jesus would hope for is that his followers, as messy as we are and as much as we make mistakes, that we would constantly be trying to pursue pointing others to Jesus and not just ourselves. And so this is a call for all of us. And here's how the disciples did this. I want to look at John. In the first 4 books of your New Testament, they're letters written by the disciples of Jesus. So kind of the right half of your Bible, you will see Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And all of these are kind of collections of what really happened about Jesus, because he flipped the world upside down. He claimed to be God, the God of the Old Testament, and then he fulfilled every single prophecy and then died, and everyone thought, well, then he's not God. But then he came back to life, showed up to a bunch of hundreds of eyewitnesses who then began to run back into the streets and say, never mind, he is God. And then this movement began to take off and change the world. As Jesus' followers said, I've seen him. And so what the 4 Gospels are, they aren't just stories. These are actually historical documents were set out to write down what took place in this guy, Jesus. Because everyone wanted to know and everyone was questioning. And so as these were written and dispersed, these people were still alive. And so all of these stories that are talked about in these writings, they have to be true, because as they were dispersed, if that person was still alive and read this and thought, I didn't really do that, that's not what Jesus said, that's not what happened, then it just would have been bunked right there, like over. But instead, the movement grew. And people began to say, yeah, that is what happened. And yes, he is who he said he is. And yes, I was healed. And this movement of Jesus' followers began to spread. And so now you get to see, how did the disciples reflect Jesus? And their job, I don't want to say it was a little bit easier, but here's what we have a hard time with. If we want to show people Jesus, we need to live it out. We need to act like him. We need to reflect him and represent him. If they want to show people Jesus, they just said, here's Jesus, right? So a little bit easier early on for them. In fact, here's the kind of the story we're going to see in John 1, 46 through 49. Jesus is showing up on the scene, and there's a lot of people talking about who Jesus is and who he isn't and what's going down. And so Philip is the follower after Jesus, and he has this friend named Nathaniel. And he goes to Nathaniel and he says, listen, you need to hear about this guy, Jesus. You need to meet him. He is incredible what he is doing. He's claiming to be God, but he's proving it. And you need to check this guy out. He will change your life, like many of us have said to our friends and our communities and our families. And so Philip is doing this with Nathaniel. He's saying, listen, you have to see this guy, Jesus. And then here's what Nathaniel says. This is amazing. And maybe you've gotten a response similar to this. He mentions that Jesus is from a town called Nazareth, which is kind of a poor, obscure town. And so Nathaniel says this. He says, Nazareth, can anything good come from there? Nathaniel asked. And then Philip said, come and see. And then when Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said to him, here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. It's really small, but catch what happened here. Philip is trying to show Nathanael Jesus, and he says these words, instead of me telling him about you, instead of me just explaining who Jesus is, I just want you to come and I want you to see him. I want you to experience him firsthand. I want you to know what he is like by seeing him in front of you. Now again, we don't get that option, but we can still say, come and see. We still have people in our lives that we can say, come and see. Come see how I handle anxiety, because Jesus has taught me a different way to handle anxiety. Come see how I handle dating relationships, because Jesus taught a different way of handling dating relationships where we give honor and we protect. Come see how I treat my parents, because Jesus has a lot to say about the way we treat parents. Come see how I handle purity because of what Jesus says about purity. Come and see how I handle things on my sports team and how I have integrity and how I lift people up and how I'm encouraging. Come and see how I accept others who aren't like me, because that's what Jesus is like. And as Christ followers, our role isn't just to take from our relationships. Our role is to say, come and see. Let me in some way be Jesus to you, whether you're my parent, whether you're my sibling, whether you're someone I'm dating. Let me be a reflection of who Jesus is to you. Let me give something to you, what he has given to me freely, and come and see. And then here's the tough question that's not going to get any claps. And I just want us to ask this of ourselves, and you don't have to say anything to the person to your right or to your left. But what do people see when they see you? Again, no one knows what's going on in your heart, so you can be totally honest. You're the only one listening. What do people see when they see you? If you were to step up in front of your friends, your family, and say, come and see, what would they see? What would they see on social media? What would they see when you talk about other people? What do they see when you play on a sports team and when you lose? What do they see when you're dating someone else? What do they see when you speak up in class? I just think we have to all answer this question for ourselves to go, if I am following after Christ and I hope to give in my relationships just as much as I am taking, that they can be a beneficial thing to each other, I have to ask this question, are they seeing Jesus in me? Because if they are seeing Jesus in me, then they are getting something from this reflection of who Jesus is. Because we are showing love. We are showing acceptance. So here's what I want us to ask. Last thing, and we'll close on this. Who is that person? Who is that person that you need to say, come and see? Who is that person that maybe God's put in your path once, twice, hundreds of times? And you've thought about going out of your way to show them Jesus. You've thought about doing something crazy like going and sitting with them at the lunch table. You've thought about giving them some words of encouragement because they're going through a tough time. You have thought about this before, but you've never quite taken it because you just feel like you are pursuing some relationships that are all about you. And you need to step into one that is about what you can do for someone else. What is that person? And the truth is, here's the thing, we all have them. Because if you are doing what you should be doing and out in the world meeting and loving on people, you will see people who are in need of love, who are in need of acceptance, who are in need of care. For some of you, you don't have to look very far because it's your parents. For some of you, you have been taking from your parents and taking from your parents, and all you give in return is discouragement and aggression and attitude. And God is saying, you don't got to look far, bro. Your mom needs some kind words. For some of you, it's a sibling. You've been taking from them and taking from them and taking from them and pushing them down and making them feel worse and making their anxiety worse and hating on them because of some kind of just something in you that we all have with our siblings. But what if God said, listen, don't look very far. Give something to them. Give them some encouragement. Give them some love. Help them grow. For some of you, this is a dating relationship. Then I'm just gonna go there. You need to get out of completely because all you have done is taken. And I wish you would just step back, get out of that for a little bit, because if you leave them drained, that is on you. You are there later regret, and I don't want that to be the case. Maybe some of you need to think, I've just been taking from this person, so I need to step back until I can figure this out. Until I can figure out how to pursue the right things and how I can love others as Jesus has loved me. And I'm gonna end this relationship. Some of you need to do that. And that's gonna feel tough and that's gonna feel difficult, but listen, that's the life that Jesus called us to live. What you don't wanna do is stay in a relationship like this and get somewhere that you realize, how did I get here? How am I so broken? How are they so broken? How are we nowhere where God wants us to be? I'm trying to prevent that in all of us because I have been there. And I just wish you would think now to stop and step back and go, maybe all I'm doing is taking. And so I need to become the kind of Christ follower who can say, come and see how I handle dating. So maybe you need to stop dating for a bit. Whoever this is for us, I want you to think about that person tonight. And I don't want you to leave this as just another message, another Wednesday. but maybe God is actually speaking to you right now. Maybe that voice in the back of your head that's so clear about who this is isn't just coincidence. Maybe God's meeting with you. And I want you to know too, listen, if you're in the room again and you're not a Christ follower, you haven't experienced this love of Jesus, do you know what happens to Nathaniel later? The same guy who said to Jesus, nothing good comes from your hometown, I don't believe in anything you're saying, Nathaniel later becomes a follower. And not just a follower, but one of Jesus' closest disciples. And he walks and does life with Jesus up until the point where Jesus dies. He's one of the last guys that Jesus entrusts the church to. And I just think there are some online, some in the room who you think because of my past, because of what I've said or done, or because of where I've been, that I can't have that kind of love and I can't have that kind of acceptance. If you will read through the Gospels, you will see time and time again that that is not the case. That the ones who are the most full of regret, the ones who are most full of mistakes, the ones who come at Jesus with the most aggression and disdain are often the ones who Jesus pulls closer than the rest. They're often the ones that Jesus will use in bigger ways than they even began to imagine, because that is what Jesus does. And so if you're in the room and you're going, yeah, but Bradley, you don't know my past. I don't need to know your past. I know our God. And he looks at your past and he sees forgiveness. He sees a second chance. He sees someone he can use to do amazing things. And that's the love of Jesus that we get to represent. So student, I want you to know wherever you're at, he's given you grace. He's given you a second chance. He's given you a fresh start in Jesus. And then we get to go and love others like that. Let me pray for us. God, I thank you for how you love us. I thank you for even when we are like Nathaniel and insult you and just pursue the wrong things for far too long. I thank you that you still love and that you still rush in to hold us, and that even tonight for so many in the room, this is a moment where you have reminded them of your love, you have reminded them of your presence, you have reminded them that you are close. God, I thank you for that. And it's not coincidence that anyone is in the room or watching online, but that you're doing big things in their heart and in their life. So God, I pray for those who are making a decision to follow after you or re-engage with a relationship with you. And then I want to pray for all of us who are learning how to love like you. It's impossible to do on our own. God, would you help us? Would you help us to continually be just looking at what we're pursuing and how we're treating others so that we can live a life that truly says, come and see. Because God, at the end of the day, we want others to see you, to know you, to understand the love that we have been so freely given. God, I thank you for this group of students and how you're using them to just do that. I know that Velocity is a place that any of us can say, come and see. And when they show up, they will experience you. So God, in these next few moments as we sing, we just declare your truth about who we are. We love you. It's in your name I pray. Amen.
If you guys are comfortable, you can stand and join us for this last song.
Come on, we sing. You're the God who fights. You're the God who fights for me.
Amen, amen. You guys are dismissed for groups. Thank you guys for being here.